This week on the OneCast, we're joined by Mike Corbishley for the second time. This time he brought a little hardware that Trey's big head is blocking. We're going to talk about his last couple NPFL seasons and when he won that shield.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's going to be a bad day.
What's going on, OneCast fans? Welcome back to the OneCast, episode 76. We got Mike Corbishley in studio again, NPFL Pro. We're going to talk about that, about all the money we've donated to him this year on Falls Lake, and whatever else we might get to. But before we do that, real quick, we're going to run through all of those that make this show possible. Start with OneCast Fishing. You can head to OneCastFishing.com. Use the code TheOneCast, all one word at checkout. Save some money. Long neck hooks, snagless jigs, weedless nets, all the soft plastics are in stock. When you're done there, head over to CarolinaWatersNC.com. Use the code TheOneCast there. Get your UPF gear, hats, all of that good stuff. They got the new gloves and buffs, which are super nice. So make sure you check them out. Code TheOneCast. Again, all one word. Save 20% off you over there. And when you're done there, you need to use the link in the bio.
Let me just say, my eyes are absolutely intact because of Hobie eyewear. I had a tungsten weight fly back. Hit me right in the face at 500 miles an hour thanks to
it was going mock Jesus.
It was flying, and thanks to Hobie Eyewear, I made a short form video. You can check that out on our Instagram page, but they absolutely saved my eyesight. Use that link in the description. As Pete said, you're going to save 15% on your next order of Hobie Eyewear. Check out those floating frames. Those things have done us awesome this year. And then when you're done over at Hobie Eyewear and you guys are in the market for a piece of paradise, Eric Schwind is serving the Sandhills area for Mossy Oak Properties. You can shoot him a message at 936-494-9686 or type an email up at ESCHWIND@mossyoakproperties.com. He's going to get you guys hooked up with your little slice of paradise here in the Sandhills region.
Yep. And if you're listening or watching, it's all linked below. So you can just click on the links and it'll take you right to that stuff.
I've actually been looking for some lands. I might do that.
Then you need to hit up Eric.
Definitely.
Eric. Yeah. He's your broker, man. He's working for Mossy Oak Properties. He's active duty service member. We had him in here 4 or 5 episodes ago, right?
We talked about catfishing, yeah.
Yeah, it was a straight catfishing episode, dude. And he loves to use baby bass for catfishing.
Not bait. They're legal.
Not well, baby. Listen, a 20-inch bass is a baby to Mike Corbishley. Okay, so get out of this.
That. Baby, those big old cats too.
That's I don't right. Care where you are, a 20-inch bass, any lake in the country will get paid.
Well,
that is
not on Sharon
five of them.
That is something I want to get into later, or maybe it's a good topic right now. We all say things like, "That's a good bass. That's a great bass. That's a big bass." What's the threshold for it? Because everything for me, like a 2 to 3 pounder is a good bass, right? Like a solid bass or whatever the next level is, like 3 to 4, and then like anything above 5 is a great bass.
Yeah. Every fish I hook, as I say, is a giant.
What? So Mike Corbishley, NPFL Pro, local take your money person. What is a great bass for you?
It's relative to the lake.
Okay, we know that, but when you lay into one,
because if I catch a 5-pounder at Lake Norman, that's a giant.
Yes. That's a giant. We know, but standard speak, like you're going out to any random lake around here, a pond, I don't know, a river.
We got pretty.
When
do
you
lakes.
say big one? When do you say big one?
Here,
yeah,
7+.
Oh yeah,
man, that's
a big.
Yeah, you're talking Falls, Jordan.
Yeah. If it's like here again, like 7+. 5, if it's 5, like that's a good one, and 3-pounders like a ride.
Yeah, right.
It's funny. It's funny when people like watch some of my videos and stuff that I'll put out like short form, and they're like, "What'd that one weigh?" I'm like, "I don't know." Like 3 pounds. They're like, "You didn't put it on the scale." I'm like, "It was only a 3-pounder. I don't need to get scale out for that."
Really good fish.
And when I realized I wasn't weighing 3-pounders anymore, I realized how spoiled we are in this area.
Yeah, especially with all of our friends in like Jersey and Pennsylvania and stuff like that. They're like, "Bro, 3 pounds. Like my PB is like 4 pounds."
Yeah.
Which is awesome, dude. Like that's a big fish, but like Mike said, it's relative to the body of water you're fishing.
It's crazy when you're fishing a derby on some of those like falls. Like you put a 3-pounder in the boss, you're like, we gotta get rid of that one.
100.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, pretty much any other lake we go to, if I catch 15 pounds, I'm like, it doesn't matter what lake it is.
Yeah,
15. If you catch 15 pounds for 3 days straight, you're more than likely going to do decent in the tournament.
Sure.
you know what I mean? And then if you catch 20 pounds, you're going to win the tournament. Here, I mean, one day tournament, 20 pounds is like, you know, you're going to do good.
Yeah.
But
You'll
like,
probably get paid.
Haven't even had a
Yeah.
20-pound bag this season.
But just look at, I mean,
well, yeah, but I mean, it's hit or miss.
Sure.
I was just going to bring up
October-
falls, your last one. Like,
Well, in October, it can take 15, 16 pounds to win up
in the
there. It
fall.
can take 10 pounds
Yeah.
to get a check.
That's right.
Yeah.
but like your last one, speaking on that, like second, somebody brought 27 and some change of scale and took second place. Just for reference for anybody listening that
The
doesn't
last
know.
two tournaments.
Yeah, like Mike won with 29 on falls, a cat, two tournaments.
times
Well, he
in a
had
row.
28 the one before that, right?
Yeah.
That was our Fishers of Men. He had 28, and Jesse and them had 26.
Yeah.
And then he won the cat with 29, and somebody had 27. So that's just when we're talking about, because I know some of you are probably like, I can't imagine it has to be over 7. I think it's big, but like we're super blessed with the
Yeah.
fishing we have around here.
You know,
very much. So.
well,
I mean, you look at Jordan, some of those tournaments in February, like we've
30
seen
bags.
40 pound bags,
yeah,
38, 40
40
pound
bags.
bags.
Yeah. I mean, that's, well, what did Bo have over 40? Bo and Brian?
I won 2 years ago when the
Yeah.
classic was in.
Because I think Bryce McClenny, I remember I talked to him after, and he had like 36
Yep.
or 37 that day. It was like it was an insane bag. I
And
think he had like 36 and a half
Yeah.
pounds. And he
And
lost the
was
first.
second.
Now that's a rare occasion,
Yeah.
obviously.
That was so when the classic was on Murray.
Yeah.
So when we were in Greenville for the expo, that was when he won Saturday with 40, I think 40 even.
Yeah.
And then Sunday he won with like 38 and a half.
Yeah, that's insane.
You know, that's
nuts. That's nuts.
you say that was a rare event, you know, and I'm thinking back this year to your tournament results and what's happened in the PBC this year. There weren't quite as many massive bags this year because last year there was like
no.
35, 38,
Yeah.
37.
No.
Hal went out one day in practice and caught like
I don't
37.
know that there was a bag all spring on Jordan over 30.
there wasn't.
Was there any on falls over 30 this spring?
No, I don't think I've seen a bag over 30 on falls this year. I mean, I don't think anybody's weighed one. There's been those are the two biggest bags the past 2 weekends. I think that
On
come out of
falls.
falls. I think I've seen there was a few. I mean, like a lot of the spring was like, you know, low 20s to win
Yeah.
for the most part, which is kind of off.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
We were talking about that with Jordan specifically. We were like, it seems like it's on a bit of a downswing.
I mean, we had 16 pounds in the spawn and we took 7th place. You know,
Well,
usually 16 pounds isn't even getting you paid.
it depends, man, because you
Right.
know how it is. Like if it gets around the spawn, or if it's like just after like post spawn funk. Like Jordan is one that has like wild swings and
It
swells.
It does.
You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. Like you can get out there one weekend and you're like, man, I don't know if we should weigh him in. We only got 16 pounds, and you end up getting like 3rd. And then
Yeah,
the next
yep.
weekend you weigh in, you get like 26, and you're
Yeah.
like, I think we're gonna win, and then you're in like 10th.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what
It's crazy.
I've never dumped my fish. I don't care if I bring.
yeah, that's smart.
I don't ever dump my fish because I have seen some of the most bizarre things happen. I've won, and it's not a lot to talk about, but on Sharon Harris with 3 fish numerous times.
Yeah.
Well,
Right?
I mean,
Yeah. Oh, especially on Harris.
I
On
probably,
Harris, right?
I mean, I don't know if I've told this story on air before, but the one year, I think it's been 3 or 4 years ago, out of Jordan Lake, there was the PBC was out there,
Yep.
had 30 pounds. Trey, your club was out there, had 24 pounds to win.
Yep.
And I was out there, and I had a boater with me, and in our club, you compete against each other, right? And so we were around the right fish. We both caught fish. We had some mistakes, but we probably had 18 pounds of the boat.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy. But I only weighed in 2 fish for like 8 pounds, like 5 pounds, and I took 4th in my
There
club.
you go.
And I was like, I wasn't even going to weigh in. I was like, because I had talked to you on the water.
Yeah.
I knew what the PBC was doing out there. I'm like,
Yeah.
we were around them. And they were biting. It was not our day.
You just never
You
know.
never-
But we
you
were like, you know
really
what?
never
Let's just
know.
weigh it in. And we're like, oh,
Yeah.
well,
Some of that
I'm
too.
glad my club is.
Like-
it
and
worked
it's not
out.
to take anything against anybody that's angling, but you got to look at some of like who's on that roster too.
Oh yeah.
Here, there's names you see when you're there. You're like, yeah, these guys are dialed in on this lake. You know, if I'm going to Falls and I see Corpse show, I just give them my entry fee money and go find fish.
Dude, no. I've had plenty of bad ones.
Yeah.
But
So that's what I fished the most growing up.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, no, it makes
Everybody's
sense.
got
I
a
mean,
home lake.
yeah.
everybody's got a lake
but-
they spend a bunch of time on it.
Let's move away from the home lake
Yeah.
and let's talk about. So this is your 3rd season in the league, right? The
Mhm.
NPFL.
Mhm.
If folks watching there's this giant shield. I got to touch it, so I feel like it's got some good juju, right? But so let's talk about, dude. The last time you were in here, you talked about your experience with the NPFL and stuff like that. But kind of give us like a quick summary of your first year all the way up until now, and then let's break down that tournament win. How is everything? How have you grown? Right, because you're a local Falls Lake hammer, you're a local North Carolina hammer, and you are. People get scared when they see your name on the roster, and that's no joke, right? They get scared when they see me too. You're welcome, but no, I'm just kidding.
I do,
but you go,
especially after what we talked about before off air.
But you got to think about it, right? Like a 1-day event is very different than a 3-day event. And a 1-day event with 70 anglers on the water versus a 3-day event with now 125 anglers on the water, that 15-pound bag might be looking pretty good, right? So how have you grown from here to all over now?
So I am so scatterbrained, and I feel like I have to answer 5 questions there, but I'm going to do my best.
Do it, dude.
Just answer the question like what's been your biggest learnings from the 30 years of fishing?
Yeah.
Well, so
it's been
hold on, let me answer that one first.
Well, I mean, it's been great, right? Like, so like the first year we had 120 boats as well, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, and I was fishing the Toyota series or the ABA Top 150 solos the year before that. I'm sorry, not Toyotas. I was fishing the ABA Top 150s the year before that. And we had it was around 120 boats or somewhere like that. They were shooting for 150. They were always like mid 120s, somewhere in that range. And I got second in the angler year of that. So like I was kind of used to, like, that was kind of, I had some confidence, because it was all 3 Alabama lakes and it was all hammers and stuff.
Are those single day events or were those
no 2 days?
2 days. Okay.
Yeah, but 2 days is a big difference from 3.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like I find myself in the NPFL still struggling to put together 3 days a lot of times, because I don't know. It's crazy how much of a difference it is, and I can only imagine what the difference is when you go to the Elite Series or like MLF and stuff like that, and those guys fishing 3, 4, 5 day tournaments. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of those things. Like, so I've kind of I like multi-day events. College fishing, it was the same thing. We were fishing 2, 3 day events anyways. So I've kind of I like multi-day events. I typically tend to do better over the course of like a series of days rather than one day. At least I thought, a lot of times around here, like I feel like I would get to like that 20-pound mark, and we would have it every weekend, but it was like, how do you get to mid 20s? How do you get to upper 20s and stuff like that? And so like, for me, it was like, I kind of wanted to keep that consistency. Here's the thing. The past few years, the NPFL, like, it seems like every event we go to, it's like a grinder event. Like it almost feels like, or like there's been some that have been like awesome, but for the most part, and they all are awesome. I mean, they've run the best tournament trail out there. Like I've fished a bunch of different tournaments, and it is incredible the way those guys run an event. Like, they do a phenomenal job. It's a family atmosphere.
Yep.
It's an incredible group of guys running it. The ownership over there, and pretty much they've got volunteers, everybody who helps out. Like, it is you've been to this stuff before, so it's awesome, man. And the reality of it is like, what I found is those tournaments are kind of like, it seems like we hit places at really tough times, and when you get a week straight of all those guys fishing the same areas over and over and over and over, by the time the end of the week rolls around, like, it's amazing how much I got spinning rod on my deck. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's just changed so much. So
I was going to ask, like, what's been the biggest adjustment you made? And it sounded like it might be the spinning rod, because when you were on here last year, and that was probably, it might've been episode 5. I don't remember. It was within our first 10 episodes. So you really talked about your first year on tour. Now you've got a whole nother season.
Yeah.
Or a quarter of the way through, I don't remember. Has it been 3 events so far?
2. Yeah. Well, we had the championship too.
So we're third of the way through this season.
Yep.
And so, like, what have your adjustments have really been like the last year and a half, 18 months to get to the point where you're even more consistent on tour to eventually, you get that shield in here?
Yeah. Yeah. And that one was, I mean, special to me for sure. Like, it was, so last time we went to Hartwell, that was 2 years ago. Yeah. And I was in second going into the final day. And again, it was like local pressure and a whole lot of excuses I could give you really hurt. But it was one of those things, again, that's like something that you have to get used to competing with. Like that's a variable that doesn't exist in other sports that does exist in ours.
That's right.
And it's one of those things that you kind of just have to learn and plan for. So like, you know, an example of that would be like, so what I did in like the Hartwell tournament, for example, you know, like Lanier kind of fished very similar to how Hartwell fished this year in a sense. Lanier last year, I was in third.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was sitting somewhere. Then after day 2, I was sitting third. And then, you know, going into that final day, and I ran out of fish.
Yep.
I was running around again there, and it was a Saturday. There were some locals out there too, but it wasn't as bad. It didn't kill me, but it's a tough time of year. I mean, anywhere in October, right?
Were you? Well, I don't remember. Were you on that shaky head brush pile bite?
I was, man, I think I weighed in like fish on 3 different baits every day, to be honest. It was just like a junk fishing tournament, but I was fishing brush and you know, it was a mix of certain things. But by the time day 3 rolled around, I was hitting all the same places and I was seeing fish all those places, but I couldn't catch them anymore. And, you know, this time around, kind of what I did differently with Hartwell, I was like, you know, I mean, I had an okay bag day 1, sitting in like 13th. You know, I had like 12. I had an okay bag. I thought I did bad. Like I thought I was not doing good. I had 12.5 pounds. I was like, I kind of survived, but I had a really tough practice. So I was okay with that. I was like, hey, I kept myself in it. I ran a lot of new water because I didn't have a good practice. I idled a lot. I idled a lot the last day of practice, so I marked a lot of good-looking stuff. And then I just kind of ran it. Like I didn't fish it in practice. So I ran that the first day, and I had some stuff that I had marked, like other brush from when I kind of went down one weekend, and I spent 2 days idling around. So then I ran pretty much all new water day 2. Mm-hmm. Like I caught my limit, and then I ran all new water. So it was all brush piles I hadn't even seen. Brush and rock. I hadn't even put, other than like graphing like here and there, like I hadn't actually looked at with my active target or anything like that to see what's really sitting in them, because I was there a month before. Yeah. So I was like, all right. So, you know, then on day 3, I pretty much just took the best stuff from day 1 and day 2. Because I was like, man, there's a lot of guys that the day 1 places I caught them. There was a lot of guys in the top 5, top 10 that were running it, but everybody was just running into each other. And day 3, when I went in there and was trying to run some of that stuff, it was just like guy with a camera, guy with a camera, guy with a camera. And I was like, I got to get out of here. Because I was literally just like, I felt like I was fishing behind people the whole time. Mm-hmm. Yep. So then I was like, well, whatever. I'm just going to go over here to this other stuff. You know what I mean? I just kind of ran around, and I was struggling, to be honest. Like I was still struggling. There was local tournaments out there as well, but again, it didn't bother me as much this time around. I've kind of got, like, you kind of get used to it and you kind of adapt. Like I planned for that. It was like, let me find this stuff that nobody else is fishing. And then, you know, end of the day, storm rolls in and feed bag turns on, fish bite, like every single stop you make. All that's right. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just a matter of like the timing and making it happen. And I knew the baits that I was throwing, I was going to be able to get them to bite. It was just a matter of like, you know, that wasn't happening at the time. And it was like, it'll happen. I just need to find the right ones I haven't been messed with today. Yeah. So
you know, we're talking Hartwell, which is a traditional blueback herring lake, right?
Yeah.
Lanier, is that a blueback herring lake?
So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very similar.
Very similar lakes. So when it comes to, we talked about it the other day, rotations versus a threadfin and gizzard shad lakes like we have here in our region. Mm-hmm. How does a rotation of fish work? Like, is it very different getting on the right rotation and then getting on the wrong rotation with a blueback herring lake versus our style lake?
Yeah, because at a blueback herring lake, you need to make somewhere like, especially when it's like an offshore bite like that, you don't need to make more than like 10 casts a spot.
Okay.
And here, if you only make 10 casts a spot, then you might not get on another spot. So you know what I mean? Right. Like there's sometimes you kind of got to play it by ear. It just depends. And it's the same way, like, you know, it's the same way here as it is in a lot of places in the country, but blueback herring places it's very much a run and gun format. Like you've got to move. You cannot sit still. Because I mean, once the fish have seen your bait, and you can tell, I mean, with forward facing sonar with active target, you can throw up there and you'll watch them all react on your first cast, assuming you made a good cast. And then the second cast you throw up there, and you'll notice them react a little bit less. And the third cast, you'll notice them react a little bit less. And the fifth, by the time the fifth cast rolls around, you better just be dragging something behind because
Really?
fishing for a different fish.
You say that. I know Pete and Trey have heard this, but a year ago, I was back at my parents in Missouri. I was fishing bull shoals. I was fishing a point like 15, 20 foot.
Yep.
Caught about a 12-inch smallmouth on that Ned rig.
Mm-hmm.
There was about 6 of them that followed them to the boat.
Yep.
And then once I got them about 10 feet from the surface, reeling them up, I watched them on live scope go off the point into over 120 foot of water.
Yep.
And just leave.
Just swim and leave.
Might
and
might as well roll.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, and that kind of begs the question, you know, you did a lot of running around during practice
Mhm.
and marked a lot of things that you said you didn't even drop your trolling motor
No.
to scan around with forward facing
Yeah.
or active target. How did you know, how do you anticipate being at the right place at the right time on a body of water like that?
You don't.
Or is it
My
a good
opinion is
guess?
everybody who you ever talk to that has a phenomenal practice that's like I'm smashing them in practice, very rarely do you hear them do well in a tournament. The biggest thing, and to going back to that question you had asked earlier, as far as like the biggest thing I've learned and kind of tried to figure out, it seems like the best tournaments I have are when I really did not have a good practice at all, but I got a couple clues. Like you get a couple clues. It's like, well, I can catch a few on this and I can catch a few on that, but like, I don't really know what I'm going to run other than like, you know, but at least I know what I can get a few bites on. And then it's like, maybe this one creek you had 2 or 3 bites in and this other creek you had 2 or 3 bites in. It's not like in practice, I'm like, you know, fishing very thoroughly in each area. Like you don't really want to do that because you're just showing more fish your bait and stuff like that anyways. And you'll notice that it feels like there's everywhere we go, there's a lot of dead water pretty much everywhere. Like at pretty much on every single lake for the most part. There's a lot of dead water. So, and if you do find an area that you can get a bite pretty quick, that it doesn't take you much effort to get that bite. And then you can figure out how do you get the bigger bites, like maybe somewhere else that's not that good or whatever. And then you roll back to area 1 on tournament day. And then you sit there and wreck them. And you're like, you know what I mean? It's kind of one of those deals where it's like figuring it out during the tournament. It's always the people who win in most of these tournaments are the ones who figure it out during the event. You might have a good bag day 1, but like day 2 and day 3, like you've got to have a different game plan. You got to be open-minded.
Yeah. Do you, we've seen that a couple times in the Fishers and Men Trail Week.
Yep.
And I think I've done it myself. I'm sure we're all guilty of it. Do you think we overeducate the fish during practice? Sometimes
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I like a lot of these local tournaments. I don't.
You don't even practice, do you?
Well, I do, but I don't. I do.
Cast.
No, I mean, I'll go out like, well, yes and no. I fish the stuff that I don't plan on fishing. Like if I go fish a Thursday nighter, a lot of times, and I don't mean this, like, I don't mean for this to sound the wrong way.
You
but
play
like,
defense.
No, not at all.
Oh.
I fish places that I do not plan on fishing on a Saturday.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fish anything good.
Right.
And sometimes when you're going to do that, you end up finding something you're like, oh,
maybe I should fish.
yeah, like maybe, or you find 1 or 2 places that like kind of surprise you, you know what I mean? Or you figure out a new bait or whatever. So to me, like, you know, if I can get out for like 2 hours on like a Wednesday, great. I might go to a community hole, go stick a few, and I'll go do some idling, whatever. Just trying to learn. Like I'll try to learn. Like if I get out for like a couple hours, like on a Wednesday evening or something like that, or a Tuesday evening, if I'm around, then I'll try to go do something like some new technique that I've never even tried to catch a fish. And sometimes it's like, okay, yeah, I can catch 2-pounders doing this or whatever. And sometimes it's like you catch a random giant and you're like, that's new. Like a new worm or a new bait or new technique or whatever. You're like, okay. And then you kind of keep that in the back of your head. So like, that's the way I like to practice is just like kind of sampling certain stuff. And then when you're fishing game day, you're fishing your best
stuff. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mike catches that 7-pounder. He's like, I've never seen you before. I don't know your name. But that, so, and I do this every single podcast, so shut me up here in a minute. But the last thing I'm going to ask you, and this goes back to
This won't be the last thing.
No,
the
well, he's
last
got,
thing
like,
I'll
6
ask you
other
before
ones.
I turn it over to Ben and Pete. So, you know, you talk about your fishing the last 3 years and on the NPFL, and you just talked about new techniques.
Mhm.
What new technique have you adopted this year that you really have never even used before?
Are we trying to give up some juice?
No, it's not juice. I mean, everybody knows everything.
Yeah,
anyway.
absolutely.
A
is.
little juice, yeah.
I don't know. Throwing a fluke.
Throwing a fluke.
Throwing a fluke.
That's a bait I don't ever
half
throw.
the fish I caught on Hartwell were on a fluke. The
Yeah.
other half were on a shaky head. But yeah, on that dirty jig Scott Canterbury head. But the other than that, man, like the fluke I caught a decent amount of them on a fluke at Hartwell.
Yeah.
And if you go back and watch the live coverage from me at Lanier last year, I caught like 3 bass there. I even broke a rod on it. I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what rod to throw it on. You know what I
Really?
mean? Oh, I caught less than 10 fish in my life on a fluke for that tournament.
Yeah.
And this time around, it was like, I got to have it on the deck because like it obviously won our tournament at Lanier, and it wins all the time on. I mean, you go back and look at the BFL All-American top 10 baits from Hartwell last year, and there's like 7 of the top 10 holding a fluke. I'm like, okay, I guess I should probably know how to throw that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, that's probably the biggest one. Outside of that, like, I don't really, I don't know. There's all kinds of like little like quirky things you try to do, like different ways to rig the same baits. You know what I mean? Just just see how you can, I don't know, learn new stuff.
Jig head minnow.
I mean, I've been doing that for probably close to 2 years, but that was about a year and a half now. It was, but to be honest with you, I can think back at some of the, like a lot of my tournaments across the country, and it was like I might have weighed in like 1 fish on it. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? For the most part, I've caught some fun fishing with it. Like, I've caught some fun fishing with it here and there, but to be honest, I have not had like any kind of banner days on it at all. I think that like the MLF format sets up perfect for that.
I do too.
Like if I was fishing MLF, that's probably all I would throw. I don't really know that's like, I don't know. It's okay. I mean, it obviously works. There's no doubt, but I don't really know that it's like
any technique, like time.
Yeah, I think they're already getting smart too.
I think they are too.
And it's
100%.
It's one thing we've talked about too, about how some lakes set up for it and some lakes don't. Like, we've all talked about how much different our local lakes, Jordan and Harris, are when it comes to that technology and how you go about fishing and how the fish set up on, not on the bottom and suspended and that sort of thing. So there's probably a lot of lake variance in play and time of the year and
water clarity.
All that sort of stuff.
Plays a ton. And to be honest with you, it's definitely a deadly technique. There's no doubt about that. But the guys who are, I feel like there's a lot of techniques like that where there's like people who they're just so dialed into it. Cause like the guys who are the best at it, you'll see like 4 or 5 spinner rods on their deck and they're doing the same thing. That like, that's all they're going to make them bite that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like an average fisherman at like a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm good at throwing certain things. I have my confidence baits, but I kind of like, like, as long as I have confidence in it and I've caught fish on it before, like I'll put 15 rods on the deck and I might catch one, on a big worm on this spot, and I might catch one on a shaky head here, and I might catch one on a spinnerbait there, and I might catch one on a crankbait here. But like, it's like situational and how I feel like what sets up best for the spot, and like based on what I'm seeing on forward facing sonar or just kind of like, what feels right at the time. And I travel with the NPFL this year. I'm traveling with Patrick Walters and Trent Palmer. We traveled together last year too, but also Drew Cook and Justin Kimmel. But like if like kind of getting in Patrick's head, like talking to him about some of this stuff, and like it always was like wild to me how many rods he always has on the deck. Like the dude's always got like 30 rods rigged up, right? And you're like. Normally you end up catching them on a handful of baits. Yeah. But it is funny because like last year when he won Santee, me and Trent stayed at his house and we got like basically last, both of us. Not really, but we both did really bad.
Thanks a lot,
tournament.
Patrick.
Yeah, and he won the tournament. And the first day we're like, how'd you catch him? And he's like, I caught like 3 jerk baits. I caught one doing this. I caught one doing that. I caught one on a spook. It was like, okay. Next day he's like, yeah, I caught like 2 on a worm, like 1 on this, 1 on that. Like he tied on like a new color worm on a drop shot he'd never thrown because he wanted to try it. Like, I mean, you know, Patrick's just he's on another level, but
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of how I feel like I've gotten to be where you just kind of, it's situational. Thank you, sir. It's situational, basically. There's right baits for certain conditions, and there are lakes where you better throw that jig head minnow.
Yeah. I was going to ask because when we were talking about it beforehand, but I think I wanted to know what all you have learned or incorporated from the guys that you room with that you mentioned, Trent and Patrick and Drew, and what have you learned over the last year and a half and then this season with the new guys like that you've taken with you?
So I think it's
Sharing
that's the
is
best
caring.
way. Yeah, I really think it's the best way you can learn. Like you have to have a close group of people that you can trust, though. Like that's the most important part of the whole situation, because as soon as you tell one thing to somebody and all of a sudden you hear, you know, or you start noticing that they're telling other people and stuff like that, that's where it starts to be a problem.
Yeah.
You know, because that'll hurt you. So it's one of those deals where it's like you got to have a pretty tight knit group of guys, and then assuming that, you know, I mean, it's good, like, because everybody has their strengths, right? Like I pulled in like one pocket on Hartwell and I saw like a 3.5 pounder sitting on the bed. And I was like, oh God, Drew's going to catch all his fish on the bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, him and Patrick, the other funny thing, like Hartwell, right? Like they only got 1 day of practice, you know?
Yeah.
And they
Because
both-
their tournament got delayed today, right? From that one.
I think so. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
Bernie
it's
got
just the
split.
scheduling
Yeah.
something.
And
Yeah.
Patrick won.
Yeah. I think that was
he
the.
also took a nap in the truck during that 1 day of practice. I should add.
You
He
guys
had like
heard it.
17 pounds in the morning. Was like, I saw what I need to see and then take a nap. But no, we bounce stuff off each other, right? So it's like it's one of those deals where you know, like you know, the way our lake's set up here, like I love to fish. Like I fish offshore a lot, don't get me wrong, but that's pretty much for like the summer months. It gets one shallow here for most
long
of the
time.
year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like most of the year it gets one shallow. So my heart still likes to put the trolling motor in 1 foot of water and flip and throw a frog and do the fun stuff, you know? But gosh, I love fishing offshore too. And as soon as they get out, and it's one of those things where, you know, I feel like we all kind of have our own strengths like that. Trent lives on herring fisheries, right? So he's going to fish that same herring style we just talked about. Like he's bouncing all over the place like crazy. He's got some stupid setup where he's got 8-pound line on a spinning rod with a jig on it. And I'm like, what is that? Why are you throwing an 8-pound line on a jig? You know what I mean? Like it'll be some crazy situation like that where, you know, they all have like their like own little techniques that's like good for home. And then you talk to you know, Patrick lives at Santee. It's a lot of stumps, and I mean he's never home anyways, let's be real.
Yeah.
But it's kind of one of those situations, right? Like Drew's a Florida grass fisherman, like but again, same story. He's elite, so he can do it all. He can do all of it. And Kimmel's also a herring guy. So it's one of those situations where you can kind of bounce things off each other and be like, have you tried throwing this? Have you tried throwing that? Like I caught a few doing this, caught a few doing that. And then it's like, you can figure out pretty quickly. It's like, okay, like, what did you have today? What did you have like weight wise? Right. And kind of bounce ideas. And it's like, all right, so we're not on the winning deal or whatever, right? Like what is it going to take? Like, what do we think it's going to take? Like 20 pounds a day. Okay. And you had 14, I had 12, I had 8, 6, whatever. Long story short, it'll like click. Like it'll click. It'll be like somebody catches a 5-pounder and it's like, are we fishing too shallow or are we fishing too deep or something like that? Like they're in the 5 to 10 range. Like I just caught a 5 in a 5 to 10 range off a stump. Or it's like, oh, I just caught a, you know, big one off a 20 to 25 foot range. Like
That's right.
out of a rock pile or whatever. And then you kind of find that like one deal. And then if everybody can run with it. And the biggest key with that situation is not getting on top of each other.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that's a lot of people. So it's like, you've got to be able to know, like, okay, this is what's going on in this creek, but like I'm gonna go to the opposite end of the lake and try to figure it out over there, and you can kind of work together.
Well, so do you guys do that? So
Yeah.
rolling into let's kind of fast forward. We know how you caught them
Yep.
at Hartwell, but going in from day 2 to day 3, what was that conversation like with the house that night, where you're like, I could actually bring home the dub on this? Did you think you were going to be able to win it?
No, I had a terrible practice.
No, I know, but after day 2
After
was
day
over.
two,
Oh, after day 2, yeah, I was like a different person, man.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like last year. Like last year at Eufaula, when I was leading day 1, I was I got so lucky. Like I have no idea if I'll catch another bass tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I did taper off, and I finished in 14th.
On Hartwell, did you feel that after day 1 or day 2? When did you feel confident?
After day 2, I really caught him. Like I caught like 40, and I was like, yeah,
Okay.
I'm learning still.
Yeah.
Like, then I got excited. I was like just kind of in the zone. It was much different mentality. So Casey Martin, if y'all are familiar with him, used to fish the FLW tour, won on Chickamauga with the giant A rig and stuff.
Yep.
years ago. So Casey's now the director of engineering at Ranger Boats. So we work together pretty closely for my day job. And long story short, Casey sent me a text the night before that final day of the tournament and was like, I don't know, I should probably pull it up and read it. But long story, it was somewhere along the lines of, it was like, you've been in this situation before. Don't respond to all the texts and emails and whatever else. Like focus, like you've been here. Think about what you need to do to win, blah, blah, blah. Get your stuff in order. It was something along those lines. Like just focus and go win. Like don't second guess any decision you make. Like it was inspiring. Let's put it that way. It was only like 4 sentences, but it was very much enough for me to be like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
It obviously worked because you still haven't responded to my congratulations.
You gotta have better text.
I guess I gotta be better.
I don't even know what I sent you. I was like, just go close it out.
I didn't text you.
I really do appreciate y'all.
Like I didn't text you after day 2.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even want to say anything to him. Like,
yeah.
I'll wait till tomorrow.
Yeah,
And then, like,
yeah.
so right when you won, I texted you and was like, hey man, whatever I said, I'm pretty sure I cussed,
But I was thinking about that text on that final day because I only had like 10 pounds at like 2 or 3.
yeah, I wanted you to talk about that because I talked to you a couple days after I'd called you because you tried calling me when you're on your way down there because I had my incident where I got thrown out of a boat. So you were calling to check in on me and I was passed out when you called. And you told me, I was like, so dude, like on the stage, you looked super nervous, which totally get it. Right. But then I was like, did you spin out or like, how did you feel that day? And you're like, I spun out multiple times. You were like, I only had like 10 pounds at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
So just talk about that last day a little bit because it really was, you had a dead fish, right?
I did. Yeah. But
And
at
then
least it was my biggest one.
Right. But like you had one, so you have that penalty in the back of your mind.
Yep.
And then you had some other stuff happen. So just kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So like that last hour of the tournament, like you said, I was kind of like, I wouldn't say that I'd spun out, but I definitely was like, dude, like this is not good. You know, I was struggling. I had like 10 pounds ish. And I was like, this is not good. And I just, storm rolled in, caught one, caught a 4-pounder, culled like 3 of my 5 out. Right. And then proceeded to lose a 5.5, like 10 minutes before weigh-in. And I was like, no, like, it was like, I basically like put the rod up and I had to go to weigh-in. I was like, you don't lose 5.5 pounders and win tournaments. Like you don't do it. Like it has to go right. There's too many guys out there that are catching them. There's too many good fishermen. I mean, right behind me, I had Kyle Welcher, Buddy Gross, like Hunter Sales, like some of these, like there's a lot. There's fishermen that you don't know, and there's fishermen that are all fishing.
Will Harkins was right there.
Guys, Will Harkins was right there. He's
Todd Goad was up there. He's got a lot of experience on
these guys. Catch them, dude. So I'm like, okay, it's just not possible, right? I run in, and my wife's there with my dog. I'm excited to see her, right? But I felt like I was about to throw up.
Did you tell her? Were you like, I think I just lost it?
Yeah, I did. I was like, she was like, what do you got? And I was like, I don't know, like 13 pounds or so. And she was like, I think it's going to be better than you think. It's like, yeah, but it's going to be like a 2nd or 3rd good, or a 4th or a 5th or whatever. You know what I mean? It was like, and and it's great. It was tight, right? So like that 4-pounder that I caught there in the last hour
That
of
was
the day,
clutch.
if I didn't catch that 4-pounder, I finished 10th in that tournament.
Yep.
I did the math on it. And it was one of those things where it was like, because I culled out like 1.5 pounds, or if that.
Yep.
So,
3.5 pound upgrade.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, 4-pound spot. So
Yeah.
I pulled up, we're sitting there in line, and Jason Burrows, again, like right behind me, local hammer, like favorite to win the tournament, wins a ton down there. Jason's like, what do you got? And I'm like, man, I got like 12. And I really didn't know what I had, 12, 13, somewhere in that range. So I sat there, and he was like, well, why don't you weigh them? So I weighed my fish, and I was like, okay, I got 13.10 is what my scale said. Their scales were weighing a little bit heavy, I think. I don't know, for that tournament with the bag. It was almost like it was part of whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't really care. I won the tournament.
Let's not talk about that.
But it was one of those deals. I sat there and I weighed my fish, and it was like 13.10. He was like, and I had a 1/4 pound penalty. So I'm doing the math. I was like, I got 13.6. And then, we get up on stage, and he's like, you need 13.9 to take the lead. And I was like,
No.
so I was like, yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. Whatever. Some sad story. Thanks to
You could see it in your face.
Oh, dude, I watched.
I'm like on the verge of tears, but I'm not going to say it. Whatever. And now I was super excited.
Yeah.
It was awesome, man.
So how heavy was 37 pounds?
Oh,
37 pounds. That was 37 pounds, right?
Yeah, man. Pick it up. Put it
I
over your
did
head.
pick it up. I carried it in here. It was heavy.
It's crazy.
I'm old and fat now, so I have struggled carrying that in here, but that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
How much did that mean to you, for you and your wife? And
Man.
I mean, it meant a lot here.
Yeah.
I told you in the text,
that means a lot.
I said, bring it home for the home team.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And that means a lot to us, because we know how hard you guys work to go out there and bust your ass.
You specifically, we know how hard Seth works. I work super hard.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
All our local guys, but we, knowing how hard you work locally, nationally, like.
And everybody who's fishing out there, like for the most part, the vast majority are working hard. You know what I mean? Like there's very few people who do it for a full-time job.
Yeah.
There's a handful for sure, but the reality of it is like, I'm working full-time job, and then, you get done, and a lot of that work starts after 5 p.m. Like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like it's a couple hours in the garage each, you've got to be, I have this like mindset of like, you should be doing, if you want to be like the best you can be at something, you should try to spend at least an hour or two a day. But you need to be doing at least an hour at a minimum. Like if you have, you're on vacation or whatever, like, I don't care if you're sitting there watching a YouTube video or watching live coverage or whatever, like you should be spending at least an hour a day on it. And that's like at the least.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're, if I've got some free time on a Saturday, like this past Saturday, and I'm not trying to act like I work harder than anybody else, because there's a lot of people that's the same way, but like last Saturday, like I didn't have a tournament or whatever. I really wanted to go to the lake, and time on the water is important, but I spent just all the time I could just working on my boat, organizing tackle, making sure my tackle's in the right spot, so that when we go to pick, like pulling all the shallow stuff out, putting all the ledge stuff in, making sure, like I got 3 giant boxes of crankbaits I wanted to organize. I'm changing treble hooks.
Yeah.
Just like planning that stuff ahead of time, because like, again, game time decision in the tournament at Pickwick a month from now, you might be sitting there and you're sitting there and you ride over a school and you're like, wow, those fish are set up perfectly for a crankbait. And I've got stock hooks sitting on one, and they're not biting this one. They're only getting one hook on this one. So then you tie on a different color and you've got, crappy hooks on the back of that bait. Well, a month before, when you were sitting around, you could have been changing treble hooks.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Or you do it on the water and you lose
Time.
a minute, but a minute's a lot.
That's right. That's
a lot
enough.
happens.
That's
in a
enough
minute.
for that 7-pounder that you have named.
You get a school fired up in 1 minute, you can catch 2 or 3 fish.
That's right.
Mhm.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to take away from how hard anybody works, but I think that's that's the difference. Like a lot of folks, when they see professional, like that term gets thrown around. I think you are, if you do it for part of your income. Yeah. Obviously, you fish the National Professional Fishing League. The elite guys, not all of them are doing it full time. So you have a day job and you have to do that work.
Yeah.
So it's almost like having two jobs because, like you said, you're spending an hour or two every night when you get home from work or off your calls if you're not traveling, like whatever it is, whether it's map study, YouTube videos, changing hooks, spooling reels. Like there's a lot more to it. And we knew how hard you worked. And I actually had fallen asleep because we fished. Did we have a derby that day? I don't remember what we had. I was smoked. I know that. And I don't nap.
No, that was the
take a warrior fishing. And I don't take naps,
fishing,
but I passed out. And I woke up to Trey text me and he was like, Mike won. And I was like, who? And then like it took a second to click and I immediately texted you. And then we put on the coverage and saw you up there with Rose holding the trophy and everything. And I was like, he brought it back to North Carolina, man. That's what's up.
And it's sitting right here.
I don't. So like that, I didn't realize how many people were really following me from around the house.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot, dude.
Like that really did mean a lot to me.
Mm-hmm.
And like I got back and we fished and jumped in Thursday night or whatever, and everybody's coming up. Dude, I was getting stopped by random people under bridges that weren't in the Thursday nighter. They were just out there in their center console fishing.
Oh, they were in a boat.
Like,
I thought you meant. I thought.
And I was like, who is this? You know
Slam on the brakes.
Yeah.
Just hop out of the truck and be like, Mike!
Man, it's amazing. It was a blessing for sure. So
Yeah.
and it means a lot. It means a lot to me and my wife.
Yeah.
Rose, for sure.
It means a lot to us too. So let's talk about some fun. You guys got anything serious to talk about?
No. I mean, he showed up at Falls the next weekend for our fishing.
Oh, yeah.
I told him.
Hey, listen, but
I don't want this to.
I was like, get out of here.
Can we just like BS a little bit?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
want to talk about myself or Falls Lake anymore.
No, we're gonna talk about that after. No.
man, we got our plaques up here. We caught the consistent fish, right? So Mike talked about that, right? Like you may catch 29 pounds in a one-day derby, but you may need 15 pounds for every derby to win Angler of the Year, right? That consistency is key. And that's an important thing. But I want to talk about the house, man. I want to talk about some fun stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So you got some absolute hammers. You guys are all hammers.
Yeah.
Obviously the house is important, right? The attitudes, the resiliency, all those things, the sharing information and stuff, probably the non-disclosure agreement you guys created amongst the house, all that stuff. Who does all the cooking at the house?
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna tell you right now, me and Trent and I don't know about Drew yet, but I can tell you me and Trent are pretty much out on that. Patrick is usually off the water at like 5 o'clock and he's like, drinking a few beers and eating dinner.
Okay.
His mentality is like, saw what I need. Like just try to, what was that? See, we're getting robbed.
Something fell in the garage.
See what I need to see. And he's like, just trying to keep himself in a good mentality going into the tournament. Like right. I'm usually daylight to dark. Sometimes that's not always good. You just spin your wheels more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's definitely something to be said about that. But
what's your go-to pre-tournament meal night before day one?
I totally forgot about this. Patrick's dad's been traveling with us too, like last year. Big T.
Yeah.
Shout out Todd. He cooks everything he cooks is really good.
Yeah.
But he has this like brown rice dish. It's like some South Carolina brown rice. I have no idea what it is, but it's incredible. And makes a good ribeye, makes a good steak, and a whole lot of other good stuff, fried chicken, whatever. So we've been, Todd feeds us pretty dang well. If it's not one of us that's cooking, Todd is the cook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's the dirtiest person in your house?
The dirtiest is Trent. You're like no thought about it. Like I think we were at Amistad,
right under the bus.
Yeah.
No, I think Kimmel threw him under the bus in something I was watching too.
Dude, it literally looks like a bomb went off in the room. As soon as he gets in, he unpacks his bags, and you're like, "How long have you been here? A month?"
Is his boat the same way? Is his tackle storage the same way?
He's for the most part pretty organized.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the most part.
who's the funniest guy in the house? Who always has like
I don't know, man.
who's
We're
got
all-
jokes?
I don't know. Who's got jokes?
Who's got jokes?
We all mess with each other a bunch. I will say this: Trent did put zip ties under my axles.
Yes.
At Hartwell. So again, they were off the water a little earlier than me. So I'm driving back, and I'm like, the best part is they're calling me. They're like, dude, we're going to dinner. Like, where you at? And I'm like, I just got off the water. Give me a break, right? So I'm like riding up the road, and it's like, you know? And I was like, what is that? And I stopped, and I like look, and I'm like, I don't really know. And I keep going, and I like make another lap around the truck. I'm like, dude. I was like, oh yeah, there's a zip tie. And so then I left them on there for like 3 days. I left them on there till after the tournament. We were riding back on that last day, like that Sunday morning, me and Rose, and I was like, I gotta take these zip ties off my truck. And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, Trent put them on there 5 days ago. The plan was for him to take them off, but no, we all have a really good time, man. We all mess with each other. We all give each other a hard time. And, like last year, so when the first year, like I was traveling with Jeff Hodges and Jesse, and same story there. Like we had blast, you know what I mean? Like it's fun just like hanging out with people and, spending time together and just getting to do go to different places, but yeah, man, we've been having a ball. Like that's my
the zip tie prank is class.
Yeah, that is.
But here's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Well, don't put it out there because then he'll know what it is. We'll have to tell him.
Well, I know Trent's been on the show
I'll do it
before
they listen to the podcast.
Yeah, do it before they listen to the podcast. Put one of their vehicles for sale on Craigslist and put their phone number on it. And put it for a super low price.
Put their boat for sale.
Or that. Right?
Put their boat up there for a super low price.
35,000.
Yeah, put their
loaded
ostrich
Phoenix
leather
21X.
seats.
10 grand. First 10,000
Dude,
takes
their
it.
Their phone will be blowing up.
I would
They'll be
probably call if I saw that. Wouldn't even be paying attention.
Yeah. Exactly.
But that's cool though that you guys have a lot of good times, cut up, play some pranks. Have you played pranks on any of them yet?
So I'm sure. Yeah. There's always.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff. I don't even know if I can say some of them on air.
I mean,
Trent had I guess he had somebody put together these little dick stickers.
Yeah. Appendage stickers.
Yeah.
Little
male appendage sticker. Little pecker.
little phallic symbol.
Yeah. So I put that on his boat and stuff like that.
You put on Trent's boat?
Yeah. Put that on him.
How long did it take him to find it?
Not that long. But just long enough to where it was really funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I slapped a OneCast sticker on Brad Fuller's Phoenix.
Yeah, we put one of our
yeah,
podcasts.
there you
together.
go.
right on the
There
windshield.
you go. I had an autograph on the back of my boat on the wrap, and I was like, it was 3 weeks later, and I was like, who signed this? I couldn't even read the signature. You know what I mean?
Sorry about that.
It was Trent.
yeah.
It
was Trent.
It was also Trent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like Trent's the prankster.
We go back and forth a bunch, but there's all kinds of good stuff. I could probably, I probably need to, I don't know, I'm not gonna write anything down, but I mean, we've got I probably should remember some of this stuff. A lot of times it's just little jabs and good stuff though. We have fun.
That's good, man.
You got to have that because there's a lot of pressure and stress and all of that. So being able to not just sit around and think about it and talk and joke and have just have fun with your buddies,
absolutely
totally helps alleviate that stress and pressure that comes with that, especially if you're leading after day 2.
Nobody drinks IPAs, do they?
We'll drink a few here every now and then, but for the most, up in Saginaw Bay last year, they had those all day IPAs.
Yeah,
well, we got into those.
We're known for that in Michigan. We love to make tree bark beer.
Yeah,
tastes disgusting.
But
I get
not
it.
in Michigan.
For the most part, it's white Pepsis and But no, I've been into an IPA every now and then.
I hear if you're feeling froggy, no bananas in the boat, right? Nobody sneaks bananas in the boat.
I don't have any superstitions.
None.
Ooh,
No,
Not a single.
no,
a single letter.
nah.
No
I think
regrets.
No regrets.
do what?
No
No,
regrets.
No regrets.
no regrets.
No
I-
regrets.
Not even a single letter.
So as we're coming to an end here, we know you got a lot of work to do. We got that shield sitting behind us. We appreciate you leaving that with us for the next 45 days. You're moving on to a very different tournament. You're going to a TVA system, right?
Yeah,
Straight ledge.
A very current driven type deal. I've never been there myself. I don't think any of these guys have either. What are your thoughts going into this next event?
It's a traditional lit. Like, yeah, you can say
without
breaking any rules.
fishery.
Traditional.
No,
ledge type
I
lake.
mean, I can talk about it. I mean,
Yeah.
you just can't tell me about.
No, I'm not. That's right. I was just letting them know.
No,
Like, it's a no. I've never been.
Can't tell you anything.
I've
'Cause
probably
don't
been
know
there
anything.
6 or 7 times.
Hey, ever been
I think
there,
I've
but-
only been on one TVA lake, and it was in the winter. And it was like 37 feet low, and it sucked.
yeah, they do winter drawdowns.
Yeah, way down.
Yeah, except like Chickamauga, like when it was in its heyday, like and the water was low, and Raji Brown was catching like 50-pound bags. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
But other than that, Pickwick, yeah, man, I've spent a lot of time on that lake.
Have you?
I have, yeah. I've probably spent more time idling on that lake than any other lake in the country. Maybe Falls.
I was gonna say no.
Yeah.
but it's not by much. Because I mean, honestly, like on Pickwick, so I fished like five different college tournaments there, I think, and then fished a Toyota series there, and then I fished. I don't know, a couple other times, maybe one other time out there.
Yeah.
Long story short, and every time I've fished there's been for like a week. So, pretty much every time I've been there is for the most part been in the summertime when they're on the ledges, almost except for when we were there for our tournament there in March, which again, I didn't even count that. But long story short, I'd say I've got probably close to, I don't know, probably close to 300 idle hours on that lake.
Wow.
So, I mean, I've spent a lot of time looking, you know what I mean, over the years and whatever else. So I've got a good pulse on it. And, but things are changing, man.
Yeah. It's a very different time of year.
Yeah. I mean, things are changing and July's tough, and they've got 200 boat tournaments out there every single week. So, I mean, there is, they just had that college championship. They had the Humminbird
had their deal out
Owners
there.
tournament. Yeah. The graphs are no good. No, long story short, I like it, man. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah.
I'm excited. That was the one I had circled on my calendar. Let's put it that way.
Is there anybody in the house that's just like not looking forward to that, you think?
Maybe Kimmel, but at the same time, like, man, I've been there a bunch, but like Patrick has too, and so has Trent, because we all fished at the same time in college.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, we fished against her and each other, and I think there's a decent amount of guys that we fished against in college that are fishing the NPFL, or a couple of guys. And so, I mean, I think there's really not a whole lot of secrets on that lake anymore.
Right.
So I think it'll be interesting. It'll be a tough one. Like there'll be some conflict for sure.
Think there's going to be rub rail to rub rail on that
Oh
one?
yeah.
Ledge fishing, yeah.
I
Find
think
those juice spots.
It'll be a lot of that.
Is there eelgrass down there too? I know there is.
Yeah.
I know there was up in Gunnersville though,
Yeah.
above it, but
Yeah, there's some eelgrass. There's some hydrilla. I don't know about where it's at right now, and I don't know how much of it there is, but usually, there's probably areas that are better than others.
mm-hmm.
There'll be a ledge bite, and there'll probably there might be an off the wall like brim bite bed or brim bed bite or something like that. Like there'll be a couple different things going on for sure, and it wouldn't surprise me if mid-July you got to mix in a little bit of everything.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You might hop in a marina, go catch one. You might go do this and go catch one. And the one thing so we're not allowed to fish Bay Springs. They cut that out, which is like a place you can run up a canal and go to. And then same thing with they won't allow you to lock to Wilson or Wheeler. They're right there below Pickwick. So we're it's going to be crowded. It'll be crowded. But they did make a pretty good call and moved us into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday though. So we're actually fishing some pretty weird hours for that tournament. It's cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting. So
that would be awesome because less pressure out there.
Yeah. Well, there's a big Saturday tournament, locals, but Wednesday, Thursday, Friday we're doing we're fishing from 10:30 a.m. to I think 5:30 is when flights start checking in. 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. will be the weigh-in.
Does that have to do with water generation?
It does.
You know,
That's a really cool move.
I am glad they were doing that move. I mean, years ago, like talking with my club stuff, it's like, why don't we adjust the hours of our tournaments like in the summertime or wintertime to like when the bite's actually better?
Yeah.
It's, you know,
Like
fish later or earlier. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like
or afternoon. You know?
like in the wintertime, let's not start till like 10 o'clock in the
Yeah.
morning, you know, and in summertime, maybe you do a later tournament to get the like, because you know around here sometimes
Yeah.
how the evening bite's so different than the morning bite.
Oh,
but,
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's awesome. They're
What
moving it for power generation to hopefully.
That's going to be really interesting.
That's
What do you
Yeah,
think
awesome.
what do you think about that on the back end during weigh-in and tackle prep and everything like that? Like,
I'm excited. It
Yeah.
means like you can wake up and eat breakfast and stuff.
I was gonna say I don't think it'll impact it that much because even if your last flight 7:30, you're done at 9.
Yeah.
You still don't have to be up until 8:30.
yeah.
honestly,
Right?
me
Like-
personally, like I would prefer that because I would rather get off the water, do what I got to do, go to bed,
Yeah.
and get up at crack of dawn
Yeah.
and do other right and
Yeah.
retie, do everything else I want to do, and have my time in the morning to prep. And
Yeah. I think
I could see.
I think there's
Yeah.
probably going to be some people that are frustrated with that want
For
to
sure.
hit that shallow water game early in the morning, but I
Yeah.
understand it, right? And
Yeah, but they bite shallow up there when the current.
for
starts
sure.
moving, you know?
But I think, from a viewership standpoint, from a fish catching standpoint, like it's probably a solid call
Mhm.
because they're so current driven.
I just
They
like that they
you know?
do the NPFL, like you said, it's a
They do their
well-run
own thing.
organization, and they do their own thing. Like they're like, hey, our anglers and our viewers have a better chance of seeing more fish caught if they're generating water from whatever noon
Yep.
to 3 or
Yep.
noon to 2. If we move the tournament so that our anglers are all out there and can catch that window,
Yep, that's
Like-
exactly right. It's opening up the bite window. That's
it's
exactly
super
what it is.
smart for viewership. It makes it less frustrating for obviously, like you said, some of those anglers were probably keying on that morning
Right.
shadow bite. There's not gonna be a shadow anymore at 10:30 in the morning. Like you're gonna miss some of that stuff, but you're at that point you're
Yeah.
fishing a national touring league. Like you have to be able to adapt a little bit.
Yeah.
And I like that they're trying something.
I like it.
Right. Like it may go out and it might flop. It might be terrible. I don't think it will because
No.
water generation is
No.
so important on those lakes as far as the
that's
bites
just
go.
a tough lake in July, but the reality of it is everywhere is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
let's be real. Like,
Unless you go up to like St. Lawrence or someplace.
yeah, unless you're smallmouth fishing.
Yeah.
So, I say that our smallmouth tournament this year, we only got one, and it's
Saginaw.
Saginaw, which
Yeah.
isn't really a smallmouth fishery, in my opinion. It's a great fishery, but I wouldn't say it's a smallmouth fishery.
Right. You can have a mixed bag there.
Yeah, right. And that's going to be in August, so that'll be again probably a tough time, late August.
Yeah.
You're gonna win with smallmouth though.
Yeah,
That's-
for sure, for sure. We had fun that time last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was where
That was a
went
really
first, second,
fun
and
one.
third.
Yeah, that was a fun one to watch. That was a really fun tournament to watch all
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
Because
a lot of fun.
that it always is up there because, like
It's a
you
good
said, it's
fishery.
so good, such a good fishery that even the anglers that aren't confident in running out there and chasing smallmouth are able to fish
Mhm.
and catch a ton of fish.
Oh yeah.
And still put together a decent tournament.
Mhm.
And then for the folks that want to go out there and know how to go out there and target those smallmouth, you get to see some pretty big bags
Yeah.
and some pretty cool stories with, last year was
Yeah.
really cool when Trent's motor blew
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you had to
yeah.
get right back in with Patrick and you guys were 1, 2, 3.
That's because you didn't answer your phone, if I remember right.
Yeah, that's what we were told.
I
Yeah,
got in. Yeah. He called me and I got in. And I had like a all caps like help text message. I was like, oh, that's not good.
Sucks to suck.
I called him and was like, what's up? And he's like, Patrick's got me. It's all good. So I'd like to credit his win a little bit to me.
Yeah.
Having Patrick don't know.
That's right.
I'd like to credit the reason he put zip ties around your drive shaft too. Is because
Yeah.
it didn't help him.
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I tried. It was pretty slick that last day. I would have had some time
Yeah.
to go get it. I came in early because I was like, it's hot. These fish are trying to die on me. I have
Yeah.
a 2.5 pounder that's already dead and I can't cull. And the second smallest one I got is 4 pounds. And I was catching like 370, 360.
Yeah.
But really, like the reality of it is like, I knew I was like 10 pounds back. So,
Yeah. That's a smart move, man. We saw that during the tournament here where somebody weighed their fish in early because they didn't want them to expire, so they didn't take those penalties.
They had
stuff.
4 they were worried about, so they came and weighed them in, and then they went back out and
caught a 5th
Well,
one.
and it's a business thing. Like you don't want your fish to die. It's just going to cost you money, but also I just really don't want to kill fish.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Unless you're gonna eat them, I don't want to kill them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? I appreciate you. We appreciate you coming down here, bringing the shield in again.
As we wrap it up, let's put it here in the center.
Yeah. Let me.
So for the folks who are,
don't drop it, Pete.
if you're still watching on the YouTube video version, you'll see it right here. Pick that big boy up, Pete.
Yeah. Hold it over your head, Pete. Broke the trophy. Just kidding, he didn't break it, but he did hit the ceiling.
There we go. Put your face up here, Mike.
look at that bad boy. 37 pounds of hard work.
Actually, I know this sucks for the listeners and stuff, but I'm gonna take a picture of us.
Yeah, this is a Kodak moment right here. Kodak moment.
What are you doing? Are you taking a picture on that thing?
He can screenshot it, yeah.
Yeah, I could screenshot it too on my phone with the official. But yeah, with that technical moving around done.
It's good. Oh, man.
Break a light, but it's good.
I appreciate y'all having me, though, for real.
No, we appreciate you coming in, Mike. We appreciate you being a friend of the show, and always a pleasure to fish against you. Honestly, I mean that honestly. I know we give you a lot of crap.
You can't even see Pete. I'm just laughing.
I know, that's why it's funny. Where'd he go?
We got to do some AI and put a mouth right here when you're talking. So your shield's talking.
The shield sucking around the corner. But no, man, we really appreciate you coming in, bringing the shield so we can check that out. Again, we're super happy for you and your wife. I know you guys are house shopping and stuff, so that definitely helps. The paycheck helps with that, and just how expensive it is. I mean, we've seen it with Derek Hudnall and the elites having to step away because of the expenses. Mm-hmm. It's a lot. So anytime you can be successful at something you love and continue to do it, we appreciate that. If you want to take a minute real quick to shout those out that make it possible. Yeah, man. You could do that for sure because we know you can't do it alone. It takes a village.
Absolutely. 100%. A whole lot of people to thank. But the reality of it is like I said, we were talking about earlier, like how I have a full-time job and stuff like that. Like I work for Lowrance, I work for Navico. I wouldn't be able to do this, especially without them, because I get, I'm taking 6 weeks off to go fish tournaments, man, just travel around the country. And yes, I'm promoting the brand at those events, but the reality of it is there's very few jobs that will understand, like, hey, I'm going to go fishing for 6 weeks. Like, you know what I mean? So, long story short, shout out to them. Mercury Marine, Cash and Rods, 13 Fishing, Dirty Jigs Tackle, Nichols Lures. Like I said, we were talking about a mag spoon earlier. I'm going to have that on the deck at Pickwick. I promise you.
You can have the Big Larry. Isn't that their new one?
The Big Larry for sure. I haven't played with that one that much. I'm excited to, though. I probably need to mess around with that one a little bit. So those guys, Boat Logics for my mounts. I've run all those on my boat. Phoenix boats. I have that 21XE this year. It's running phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Awesome boat. Excited to put that thing in some big water. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna run out of ideas. NCSSI, it's a SSI, it's a paint distributor over here in North Carolina. Man, I'm gonna forget someone.
Yeah, batteries. No. Appreciate the OneCast having you on. And
the OneCast for having me. I don't know how I started singing. Here we are.
We know you've been super wrapped up with a lot of shows. We wanted to give you that time. You were on Low Budget Live. You were on Fishing Georgia, right? Mm-hmm. All those. And you've been a great friend, like Pete said. So we can't wait to continue fishing against you on your home body. We're learning a lot from you too. And that's the coolest thing about you bringing this win back to North Carolina too, is like, we're all about education, information. We're all about ensuring that we, keep helping these young anglers grow, these older anglers grow. And you just sharing, you're not sharing all the juice, which we're never going to share all the juice, but it really helps people understand and put things into context from a tournament perspective. Right. So we appreciate that. Yeah. Ben, you got anything before we end the show? Pete, you got anything?
Nope, I'm good.
Got any closing comments?
Victaulic and Bahia. Those are the other two I forgot.
There you go. See,
That's it.
As I was talking, he was stimulating. All right, who else do I need to thank? Mike Corbishley, National Professional Fishing League, Lake Hartwell champion. We wish you the best of luck at Lake Pickwick or Pickwick Lake. I don't know how you say it. And the rest of your 2024 season. We look forward to you coming back on the show and helping us continue to grow a culture of anglers, helping anglers one cast at a time.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.